Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson. Thank you once again for joining me. I appreciate all of you that are taking the time to watch these very long videos, and I really hope this one isn't going to be 40 minutes again. But, you know, that's why it's called Non-Scripted Ramblings, because I'm just here to ramble about whatever for an unspecified amount of time, if I can even speak. I'm probably going to have a lot of trouble speaking because I have so many emotions about episode 3, you guys. So many emotions. Episode 3 of Loki is called Lamentis, and it's a shorter episode. It basically goes for as long as my ramble did last week, which is 42 minutes, which I thought was funny. But yeah, it's just because it's shorter doesn't mean it's any lesser than the previous two. In fact, again, this episode is my favorite so far. Like last week's was, I don't know if last week's was my favorite, but I don't know. Like they keep just going in these new and different directions that I'm not expecting and that I really like. I'm just I'm just over the moon with this episode. It was wonderful. All of the complaints I had or anyone had, I think, about Sylvie, as we officially now know, or at least that's what she's saying. She may not be saying everything, but I don't know. She seemed genuine when she said she referred to herself as Sylvie, but yeah, last week it was like, oh, why is she blonde? Like, why she's supposed to be Lady Loki? Surely she should have dark hair. Like that's comic book accurate. Like what are they doing? And then they're combining Enchantress Sylvie Lushton with Lady Loki. So I guess this is the amalgamation of the two. We don't know why. All we find out about her really in this episode is that Sylvie is an alias. She doesn't like to be called Loki anymore. She changed her identity. She changed her whole shtick for some unknown reason. We have no idea why. So yeah, we don't learn too much more about it, but we learn enough, I think, to. I'm loving her so much. This episode was pretty much just the Loki and Sylvie show, and I'm just very much here for it. It was a bit sad that there was no Mobius this week at all. Because we've all been really loving and enjoying Mobius on screen so far in the first 2 episodes. He's brilliant, and the partnership with Loki has been very wonderful to watch on screen. So that was sadly missed, but Sylvie definitely filled that void this week and proved that they have just as much of a 1-2 dynamic as Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. So Sophia DiMartino obviously playing Sylvie. I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on this actress now. She blew me away in this episode, you guys. Like, really did. I really enjoyed her quite a bit. I don't know for sure if, I don't really know to say either way if she actually is a Loki, because I know there are theories still after last night's episode that she may not actually be a Loki after all. She might still just be Enchantress and masquerading as a Loki, but I don't know. I'm kind of on, I'm just kind of on the fence about it, but she did a very good job in kind of, bringing that Loki-ness to Lady Loki, to that character. I think she did quite well. Like I saw elements of what Tom has done with Loki over the years in her, even if they don't look exactly the same, and they're completely different variants of the same being. But I think she still did she did a phenomenal job. I really enjoyed watching her performance. I don't care about the blonde hair anymore. Blonde is in. Very happy about the blonde hair now. I really like her hair. I can definitely whistle past the fact that she's not a brunette. God, I don't even know where to start with this. I've already started, but I don't know where to go from here, really. There's just so many cool things. Obviously the episode picks up where we left off last week, and we were all really wondering where she was going to go, but I suppose it should come as no surprise that she goes straight from the hurricane in Alabama to Haven Hills to the TVA, because, you know, she's enacted her plan. She's set off all the reset charges and sent them through all these time doors to, you know, disrupt the timeline. And that's, you know, and we still have no resolution on that. We have no idea what's going on. So, and I'm really, really hoping they don't do an episode from the point of view of the TVA next week while this was happening, because I feel like that's going to piss a lot of people off and will slow down the plot even more, because they only have 6 episodes. We're halfway through now. That's not going to do anyone any favors. But again, it's a trope that happens. It's kind of a trope that's been happening in miniseries and in short, like, you know, TV series, like shows, like they do that kind of thing where they do a perspective change sort of episode, same events but different people. So maybe they'll do that next week. I really don't want them to, because that will mean no Loki at all. But I highly doubt it, because, you know, we can't have that cliffhanger of like, oh my god, they're on Lamentis 1 and it looks like they're going to die. I mean, they're probably not going to die, but we have no idea how they're going to get out of it. But yeah, it was nice to see some little bit of action happening at the TVA with, you know, and Sylvie trying, like, actually using her enchantment powers, but them not working. And then we learn that throughout the episode that, you know, her power works by, you know, making physical contact, going inside the mind and grasping control. And the weaker the mind, the easier it is to do. But the stronger the mind, she has to project or manufacture or use a memory of the person to and go into it to get what she wants and get control, sort of thing. I really loved the explanations about her powers, and so it was really nice. Straight up, the first agent she uses it on, when she gets there, it doesn't work, and she ends up having to do a fist fight. And it was really cool to see her use her physical strengths like that. The fight choreography was really well done. I thought I liked it a lot. And Loki gets his knives again. Finally, he's finally been reunited with his weapons of choice. And yeah, their initial fighting, Sylvie and Loki was very entertaining. And I like how Sylvie was like, "You're in my way," and Loki's like, "You are my way," because he's still on that we should work together. Why are we fighting? Like, you know, he's being way more diplomatic than, you know, than what Sylvie wants to be or is being. And it kind of reminds me of Thor Ragnarok, when, you know, Thor and Loki meet Hela for the first time, and Loki just says, perhaps we can come to some kind of arrangement. You know, he wants to avoid the fighting. And Hela's like, you sound like Odin when you say that, you know, which is interesting. But yeah, that just kind of reminded me of that. Like, you know, Loki kind of seems to, he doesn't want to fight. And it's kind of like what he said in episode 1. He's like, I kill people because I've had to. I have to. Like, he doesn't want to do it. So it's the same here. He doesn't want to fight, but he will if he has to, sort of thing. He'd rather avoid it if he could. But yeah, and then Ravonna Renslayer finds them in the hallway, and I love how Sylvie's like, you know, come any closer and I'll kill him or whatever she says, and Ravonna's just like, go ahead. Like, and I was like, yeah, of course she's gonna say that. Why would Sylvie even be like, think, you know, if it was Mobius, maybe that would have been a different exchange. But Ravonna's like, he means nothing to me. He's a Loki variant. I don't want him here anyway. Get rid of him. It's fine. And then Loki uses what we now know is called a tempad, which is the little, you know, rectangular device that allows the time doors to open and pass. You can pass from one place to the other through interdimensional time and space, as what Sylvie says later on in the episode. So Loki luckily gets that upper hand on Sylvie early on, having control of the tempad this whole time, and it's the only reason that she's really kind of sticking with him, or, you know, making sure that he doesn't get away, sort of thing, because he has what she wants, so he's got some leverage on her. And yeah, and so there's just, I don't know, they go to Lamentis 1, there's more fighting and more fighting, more discussion. She tries to enchant Loki and that doesn't work, and he's like, well, because my mind's too strong, like, why are you even trying? That was very interesting, but yeah, and yeah, so they find out that they're on this planet, well, moon called Lamentis 1. Now, this is an apocalypse, so I imagine that Sylvie must have had all the apocalypse like events she was hiding in and going to and stuff stored in the tempad, so one just came up randomly maybe, or it was a previous one, and Loki, because he doesn't know how to use the device properly, he accidentally just tapped that to get away, because, you know, they were about to be attacked by Ravonna and some other Minutemen. And so Sylvie's ropeable when and she finds out where they are, because they're on literally, like, they're in the middle of literally the worst apocalypse that you could pick, because apparently Lamentis 1 is this moon where they keep saying a planet, but it looks like a moon. And in some articles and reviews I read after the episode referred to both Lamentis 1 and the gigantic spherical object crashing into it as both planets and moons. So I don't know, I'm just going to stick with what the dialogue said in the episode, that Lamentis 1 is a moon and a planet is crashing into them. And everybody dies. So this is like just insane, and you know, it's chaotic, and things are raining from the sky, and they have to dodge and duck and dive and all this stuff. And I really, really like it. And we get more dialogue, like there's, you know, more dialogue revolving around, you know, Sylvie saying, don't call me a Loki, I'm not a Loki, like, I haven't been a Loki in a long time, like, don't, you know, my name's Sylvie, it's an alias, all of that stuff, like, she's, it's not, you know, Loki's not who she is anymore. So, yeah, so we're getting all these little sprinkles and little hints at her past and what's happened with her, and I don't suspect we're going to learn too much more, maybe next week, but yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, whatever we find out about her, I think it's going to be trickled out, I suppose, over the next 3 episodes. But I'm really excited to learn more. I loved so much of the dialogue in this episode. I really loved when Sylvie said to Loki, what part of imminent death confuses you? Saying that to a character who has died so much, or fake died so much, is very, very amusing to me. And then she's like, what makes Loki a Loki? And Loki just replies with independence, authority, and style. And you know, Sylvie's like, well, I'm not you, sort of thing. Like, I'm really loving the banter between them throughout the entire episode. Is really, really well done, I thought. I really enjoyed their dialogue. I could just listen to the two of them talk for days on end, honestly. It was wonderful. I just love the petty little snipes, along with the more serious conversation, and just, you know, and them talking about magic with each other, and just, oh my god, just brilliant. Anyway, so they have got 12 hours until it's game over, basically. So they need to find, they don't have enough, the Tempad doesn't have enough battery power, so they need to find a source that can recharge it enough to get them at least off Lamentis 1. So I should mention when I mentioned Lamentis 1, apparently it is a moon that's a mining colony. I mean, that's kind of obvious in the episode, but notably it falls under Kree-controlled space in the comics. It was first mentioned in 2007's Annihilation Conquest Prologue #1. There's this big Marvel crossover comic event that happened around that time. And that's when it first came up. But yeah, really interesting that it's, you know, a nice little bit of, you know, world building, the fact that it's a moon that's, you know, kind of controlled by the Kree. Even though we didn't see any Kree, really, in this episode. But then again, the Kree, as we see in Captain Marvel, they look more humanoid than alien, I suppose, because I think Yon-Rogg was supposed to be a Kree, but he looked like a man. But then the Kree in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are all blue and stuff, and the Kree in Guardians of the Galaxy are also blue. So it's all, yeah. But anyway, we didn't see any Kree. If Kree in the traditional sense are blue, then we didn't see any. It was all humans or humanoid beings on this moon living and about to die. I loved the scene where they come across this like kind of cabin where there's this old woman in there, and they're trying to A, find a power source, and B, I guess find out how to get to a power source if they can't. So, and I love the fact that like they're bickering as they go up, and Sylvie, you know, wants to just go in guns blazing, but Loki's like, no, I don't think that's going to be the right approach, and then, you know, she kicks the door down and gets blasted immediately, and I and I love how Loki says, yeah, I enjoyed that too, you know, to the old lady. And so he begins doing what Loki, you know, is known for doing, which is, you know, charming his way in, sweet talking, using his silver tongue, as it were. And yeah, and that doesn't work. So then he notices a picture through the window of the woman with a man, and he shifts into the form of the man and tries to, you know, get on her side that way. But it's kind of a cliche, but I really enjoyed the fact that, you know, he's masquerading as this old man who, you know, was probably a husband of the woman, and, like, you know, sweet talking her and saying, you know, you're beautiful and all this before he gets blasted. And she's like, he never said anything ever that nice to me, or he never said anything like nice to me like that for years, or something, you know, to that effect. And I just thought that was very funny. And then Sylvie's like, oh, okay, I see. Yep, I see that worked for you very well. And he's just like, just don't start. And that's, yeah, she tells them about the Ark and the fact that there's a plan to try and get these people off the planet, even though Sylvie knows that they're all doomed anyway, and the Ark is destroyed before it can even get off the ground. So they end up going, like, the old lady directs them to a train station, and Sylvie again wants to use her brute force kind of to get through, because she's like, there's only going to be a fight if that's what they want, sort of thing. But, you know, she's more than willing to do it. She just wants to enchant someone to get on board and let that happen as it happens. But Loki's like, no, let's try things my way. And then he I love how just comical to me Tom Hiddleston looked in those guard outfits. You know, the dark navy outfits with the turtleneck collar and the massive weird helmet things. And then, so he shifts into this guard so they can get through, and then a combination of him and Sylvie, she enchants one of the guards, because obviously Loki's plan wasn't going to work, because the fact that he even thought for a second that he'd just be able to walk through like that, I thought it was pretty naive of him to think that. I'm like, oh, okay, come on Loki, you're smarter than that. But then, yeah, Sylvie gets them through using her powers, so the two of them work together, and it worked out all right. And I just love the voice that Tom Hiddleston puts on when he's... It's just so... It was so amusing. It was so amusing. I really really enjoyed it. But yeah, they go on the train, and this is my favourite part of the episode. The entire train sequence is just phenomenal. I forgot the part where Loki, after Loki shifts into the guard's uniform, and he's like, how do I look? And she's like someone with a shit plan. I really liked it. It's fine. It's good. Yes, and then, yeah, when they get inside the train carriage, and then Loki's like, I can't sit backwards on a train. Like, of all the little things to know about his character, he doesn't like sitting backwards on a train. And Sylvie's like, well, I don't like having my back to a door. And Loki's like, but there are doors on either side. What are you talking about? Very amusing. And yeah, and then they sit down and they have conversations, and you know, things are rocky at first, but then you know, Sylvie touches on the fact that, you know, well, clearly you have, you know, someone very powerful trained you or whatever, and Loki just says, my mum did, and he starts telling her about Frigga, and who she was, what she meant to him, and, you know, how she taught him magic. And I love the little story of, like, when I was a boy, she would, you know, turn a flower into a frog, or send fireworks over the water, and then she would tell me that, you know, you can do that too, because he believed her when she said that you could do it. You know, you'll do it someday. You could do it too, because you could do anything. That was really, really nice. And then, you know, he uses his powers to make the fireworks come out of his hand, and oh man, I was just in heaven. This is the beginning of heaven for me, because it's Loki using his magic this whole episode. His powers are on display, and I'm just sitting there like a stunned mullet for most of this. I never thought I'd ever get to see this, and I'm just beyond happy, just beyond happy. Like it's a dream come true, to be honest. And then, you know, speaking of dreams coming true, the pivotal moment, the moment of the episode for me, has to be when, you know, they start talking about love. You know, they're talking about how the old woman, you know, they're like, well, you know, like he's like, oh, she loved him, and Sylvie's like, no, well, she hated him, and then she's like, well, love is hate, and then like he conjures that quill and parchment and just starts to write it down. Very funny. And then he's like, speaking of love, is there a bow waiting for you at the end of your crusade? And she's like, there is actually, which I didn't know whether to believe her or not. Some of it seemed kind of faked, maybe, like not real, like she was just kind of, you know, being sarcastic about it, because she mentions a postman and you know, how some people will do anything when they're faced with certain doom, sort of thing, and that. But some of the, I don't know, the facial expressions, the look in her eyes, sort of thing, really indicated that maybe there is actually someone waiting for her when this whole thing's done, and that would be really nice, because, you know, she seems, I'm you know, as I've mentioned earlier, I'm really warming up to Sylvie so much. I really, really like her a lot. So that would be really cool. And then here it comes, the moment where Sylvie says, what about you? You're a prince. There must have been would-be princesses, or maybe a prince. And then she does this, like, you know, like slow smirk and like eyebrow raise, like, which I loved. And then the camera cuts to Loki, and he says a bit of both. He says a bit of both. I suspect the same as you, but nothing ever. And then she chimes in and says real, and he just agrees and kind of goes and takes a sip of his wine, of his champagne, whatever the alcohol he's drinking. And I was just floored at that moment, and I'm probably gonna cry now because oh shit, I knew I was gonna get emotional in this episode. Far out. I nearly started crying at the time when I watched that, because you know, that's confirmation. Loki is bisexual. Kate Herron, the director, tweeted after the episode, basically just saying that she you know, she also referred to herself as bisexual, which was wonderful, and then basically talked that this is something that she wanted to make sure happened in the show, and you know, and is so proud of it that it came to fruition in this way, and that it's canon in the MCU that Loki is bisexual, and it really makes him the first lead character in anything Marvel, in anything Disney, to be an LGBTQIA+ character, like the first one. Obviously, there have been other supporting characters and other minor characters mentioned, you know, in Endgame, of course, where that, you know, one of the Russo brothers cameoed as a gay man, or a man in love. I shouldn't assume his orientation, but, you know, as a man who was with another man. You know, and that was really lovely, and a lot of people was like, oh, pandering, oh, you know, give us more, like, don't just say it, and, you know, but, because it's like, the MCU's never been, as we know, it's never been focused on romance, really, too much, or sexuality too much. Obviously, there's been a lot more attention paid to straight romances, you know, like Thor and Jane, and Tony and Pepper, and you know, Bruce and Natasha, and Steve and Peggy. So there's so many, and there's more, but like, you know, that's kind of an adage onto the overall story. Like, these movies are not really hugely focused on romantic aspects, and it's more about the, you know, the superhero action and all that stuff. But they're there, they exist. But we haven't had any queer romances depicted on screen. Now that we have a character like Loki, a character like him, who is one of the most popular characters out of everyone, good or bad, and has his own show, right? And so now he's said on screen that he's bisexual. You know, he's acknowledged. It's been acknowledged officially. It's insane. It opens up the door for so much more, so many more things to come. And you know, that it doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean either way we're going to get to see Loki, you know, mingle with anyone, man or woman. Maybe, yes. I mean, there are people online shipping him with Mobius already, and that's interesting and totally fine, and I support it if that's how you feel. You know, I would not be against it. But anyway, I see them more as bros as opposed to a romantic pair, but that's just my opinion. But the fact that, oh boy, I mean, I identify as bisexual, so to have, you know, I've said it earlier, I think in a couple of videos before, I'm like, it's so surreal to have my favorite character played by my favorite actor have his own show. It's just bonkers crazy, never thought it would ever happen, and it's better than I could have imagined. And then in episode 3, he says he goes both ways, like I do, the same way. And I'm like, I'm just, yeah, shit, I'm very happy. It means the world. It really means the world, because, you know, especially because bisexuals are very, I don't know, very discriminated against within the LGBTQIA plus community. I mean, you know, I mean, not as much as we used to, I suppose, but because of, I'm not going to go into all of that right now, but, you know, it's just, to have a character like as popular as Loki, as significant as Loki, be a queer character is just, it just means the world to me and to so many other people. When I was scrolling through the internet last night looking at reactions, that was the one thing everyone was talking about the most, of course, and people were just gushing and getting emotional and screaming and crying, and it was just beautiful and about time. And yeah, I mean, yes, obviously it's no secret that Loki is a queer character anyway, because we know he has been in the comics, and Tom Hiddleston's talked about it in the past, and because of that, and then you know, we found out he's officially gender fluid on his TVA run sheet. So and that's fantastic as well. But then to have it confirmed, it's just, yeah, just brilliant. Like, I'm so happy. I couldn't have, yeah, this is more than we deserve, I feel. Like, I don't know. I mean, no, we deserve it, but it's just, yeah, there's just so much. And on top of that, just to say, all of the magic that he used in this episode, I was living for this, because I have waited years for them to actually show us how powerful Loki is, what he's truly capable of, and just all of the little bits of magic that he was using throughout during the fight scenes, showing Sylvie, and then in the finale bit where he like uses his powers to stop a building from falling on them. I was like, are you serious? He can do that? Like, I had no idea he could do that, and mind blown. And it looked so good, just amazing. But yeah, the train scene, I loved it. It was even lit. Like, I know a lot of people have said, like, in the train it was lit in a certain way, and then later on when they're in the final act trying to, you know, get to the Ark, there's there are the bisexual pride flag colours, like, in the lighting. So the pink, purple and blue, they are my colours. They are our colours. And to see the room when he says he's bi, and the room is kind of lit in those colours with a bit of green going on because it's Loki. I just hats off to Kate Herron so much, like, just brilliant. And hats off to Bisha K. Ali, who wrote this episode. Need to give her a massive round of applause for crafting this script and bringing this whole thing to fruition. And I'm so excited because she's actually the showrunner of Ms. Marvel. So when we get to see Kamala Khan on our screens on Disney Plus, I think next year, or later, it's either later this year or it's next year. I don't think there's a release date yet. I'm so looking forward to seeing what else she can do and what she can bring us, because goddamn, just amazing. Yeah, but anyway, and then they have a whole discussion about love, like, you know, at first Sylvie's like, love is mischief, and Loki's like, love is, and he's like, and he thinks on it for a sec, and he's just like, I think I need another drink before I can answer that question. And then we get the glorious scene of, you know, Sylvie waking up to find a drunk Loki singing an Asgardian, rousing up the train carriage, and they're all clapping and dancing along, but he's back in his TVA uniform, and she's like, what the hell, we're supposed to be laying low, what are you doing? And she's like, it's the end, he's like, it's the end of the world, no one cares, it's totally fine. And he's singing an Asgardian, you know, and it was like, I know Tom Hiddleston can sing because he's, you know, he played Hank Williams in a movie called I Saw the Light a few years ago, and yeah, he can sing, but just to hear him, you know, sing these Nordic words and just the moment where it slowed down and he kind of looked at Sylvie, you know, people online are kind of theorizing that he was testing her because she didn't really seem to grasp the words he was saying, maybe. It's a valid theory. I don't know if I 100% agree with it, because it, you know, it fits with the whole, is Sylvie actually a Loki, or is she just fully Enchantress masquerading as a Loki? And maybe Loki, you know, because Loki is very smart, and he's, you know, he's always playing a game, he's always playing a trick, so this could have been a way to, you know, try and figure out who she is really. But it was a beautiful scene, like when it just slowed down and he's just looking at her and singing, and I was, oh God, this show is perfect. I'm so happy. And then that leads to, you know, Loki says another and smashes his glass. Throwback to Thor #1. Hello, fantastic. Thank you so much. Loved that. And she's like, Sylvie's like, you're drunk. You got drunk. And I was asleep or whatever. And he's like, I'm not drunk. I'm full. But bear in mind, I'm very full. And he's just fascinated with this food and stuff, and with, you know, and it's just so funny that they're having this discussion. And then the you know, she's all paranoid because she noticed one guy walk out looking funny at him, and and then there's like another confrontation with the guards and stuff, and we get more Loki magic, more fun, awesome action, stunt choreography, loving it. But they get kicked off the train. I skipped over the part where Loki was like, he has that conversation with her. He's like, I figured out an answer to your question. And she was like, what? And he's like, love is a dagger. And I just loved his whole kind of like metaphor for it, you know, how it's not real and how it's beautiful. You can see yourself in it, but then it can until it makes you bleed. Like, and all this, and I loved it. But Sylvie was not sold on it. She was like, so love is an imaginary dagger then? And he's just like, well, I thought I had something there. It was very funny. But yeah, they're off the train, and then they realize the temp pad has been destroyed, and Sylvie cracks the shits big time, understandably, because, you know, she's like, okay, great, we're gonna die, and my plan that I've spent years and years, she says at the start of the episode, forging, is now all been all for nothing, basically. But but they have a brief discussion and get on the same page, and then decide. Loki's like, well, the Ark's never had us on it, so maybe there's a chance it could actually get off the planet. Yeah, and so they get up. They decide to head to the town where the Ark is and make a last ditch effort to stop its destruction and get off Lamentis 1. And then just before we go into this scene, we get the reveal of the episode. One other big reveal is the fact that all TVA agents are variants, because she talks about how her enchantment powers work and how she used them on C20. And turns out that scene at the start is actually a memory from her life on Earth from hundreds of years before. And this blows Loki's mind. He's like, well, they don't know that. They think they've been created by the Timekeepers. And Sylvie's just like, well, that's ridiculous. That's not how it goes at all. So she knows the truth. And now Loki does. And he's genuinely shocked. And you know, I read one review that said that was very heavy-handed exposition. And I was just like, I don't agree. I can see why you would think that, but I disagree. I thought it was fine, did what it needed to do, and it was a fine enough reveal for me. So yeah, so the fact that that's why Mobius cares about jet skis so much is because he used to ride them, but he doesn't remember because clearly his memory's been tampered with. And yeah, so brilliant, awesome. Yeah, nice to have that theory confirmed. I did read about that last week. I think somewhere someone said that the TVA agents are probably all variants. And yeah, it's true. So, but then yeah, the last sequence is awesome. I really enjoyed it. It's a single shot. It's probably not filmed as a single shot, obviously, but it's made to look like a one-take shot of them getting their way through the crowd, through the debris, through the buildings, fighting more guards as they try to get to the Ark, and it's just amazing. I love that whole sequence. It's so well shot and so well done, and I love Sylvie and Loki working together, trying to get to the Ark, to get on it, and it's just phenomenal. And that scene where the building falls and Loki uses his powers to stop it, I'm gonna have that image in my head for a long time, because I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's so good. Yeah, it was really good. I loved how the camera followed them and came back with them and went around with them. And one of my friends I was watching the episode with initially was like, this feels like a video game sequence, and she was right. I'm like, it does. You know, it kind of, the way the camera would stick with them and then it would move up to show their goal or what's happening around them, and then come back, because like there's that cool shot of like the planet. I'm calling it a planet because that's what it was referred to in the episode. The planet cracks, it splits. The force of whatever's going on has caused it to completely split, and that's when chaos starts to really ensue. And it's just very full on. Yeah, so they're just trying to, get through and all that stuff. But yeah, the way it was kind of shot and done, it just really felt like a speed run of a video game sort of thing. Yeah, I really liked that quite a bit. And then, just as they finally get to the front, they look up and we get to see a gigantic chunk of planet hurtle through the Ark and it's destroyed. And then the camera pans around, a wide shot showing Sylvie and Loki and then the doomed residents of Lamentis 1 falling to their knees, basically, because, we really are about to die. And all of those people that got on the Ark are all dead. So nothing matters. It's over. We lost. We're all going to die. And Sylvie just immediately walks off. She's just like, well, fuck. and Loki just kind of stands there heaving because, he's out of breath and just in disbelief of like, okay, all right, I guess this is it then. Yeah. And then we cut to credits. And this really lovely song called Dark Moon, appropriately titled, of course, for this episode. Very, very nice song choice by an artist named Bonnie Guitar. We had Bonnie Tyler last week. We got Bonnie Guitar this week. I'm loving the Bonnies. Good work. Yeah. So it's just very kind of an abrupt ending, and it was just like, oh my god, no, why? God, don't. Oh, how are they going to get out of this? And I'm thinking the TVA is not going to be able to help them because obviously it's not going to know where they went. Surely they're not going to be able to figure out where they went because they're in an apocalypse. There's no variance energy to be detected, no branch to detect it, and because of all the other branches that are going fucking AWOL right now because of what Sylvie did, yeah, it'd be impossible to find them. So I don't know how, like, maybe this really is the end, and then we pick up with another Loki for the last 3 episodes. I mean, they could do that. I don't know if they will do that. I don't know if that will work. I guess we'll find out. I'm sure there's going to be a way for them to get out, but the one thing I will mention before I wrap up, because I'm going to wrap up now, because look at me, I've talked for 40 minutes again. The fact that there's not much footage left from the trailers that we haven't seen. There's the shot of him on Asgard, on the throne, like walking away from the throne. We haven't seen that yet from Thor, looks like Thor 1. We haven't seen Loki, you know, and I'm guessing this is going to be the start of episode 4, that shot of him with the wind coming at him and him standing there and everything's going chaotic around him. That looks like, you know, the end of Lamentis 1 now. So we haven't seen that. We haven't seen him, you know, with the sword walk through that big door with like the golden cracks through it. That hasn't happened yet. Yeah, and then of course the vote for Loki, you know, come on, what did you expect moment. That hasn't happened yet either. So yeah, there's a handful of moments left from the teasers, but most of them have come and gone now. So who knows what's going to happen? I have no idea. All I have to say is I love this episode so much. I'm so happy about it. It's just freaking phenomenal. Thank you so much again to Kate Herron, Bisha K. Ali, and Michael Waldron, and Tom Hiddleston, because he's an executive producer on the show as well, so he would have had a hand in a lot of this as well, and I'm just very beyond grateful and thankful and happy. So yes, so I guess that's going to wrap me up for another week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I rambled on a long time again. I'm just very passionate and I have a lot to say because this is just so amazing and wonderful. Yes, very, very happy, very pleased. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time, I've been a Kendall Richardson and you've just experienced non-scripted rambling.